corporate structure and governance. Business structures. The functions of most executive teams are very similar for most businesses, and they will not differ in any significant manner based on how they may be structured or organized. There has four types of business organization: sole proprietorships, partnerships, corporations, and hybrids, such as limited liability companies and limited liability partnerships. So what is sole proprietorships? It is typically defined as an unincorporated business owned by a single person or owner. The process of forming a business as a sole proprietor is usually a simple matter. A business owner merely decides to begin conducting business operations, and that person is immediately off and running. Compared to other forms of business organizations, proprietorships is a basic structure and are simple and inexpensive to form. Next is partnership. It is a business structure that involves a legal arrangement between two or more people who decide to do a business as an organization together. In some ways, partnerships are similar to sole proprietorships in that they can be established fairly easily and without a large initial investment or cost. Next is corporations. The most common type of organizational structure for larger businesses is the corporation. A corporation is a legal business entity that is created under the law of state. This entity operates separately and distinctly from its owners and managers. And last, hybrids, or limited liability corporations and partnerships. The LLC is essentially a hybrid form of business that has elements of both corporation and a partnership. Another form of organizational structure is something called a limited liability partnership, or LLP, which is quite similar to the LLCs in structure and in use. It is very common to see LLPs used as the organizational form for professional services firms, often in such fields as accounting, architecture, and law. Conversely, LLCs are typically used by other forms of businesses.
Next, let's discuss the relationship between shareholders and company management. In a simple definition, a stakeholder is any person or group that has an interest in the outcomes of an organization's actions. Stakeholders include employees, customers, shareholders, suppliers, communities, and governments. While a shareholder is typically receive dividends if the company does well and succeeds. They are also known as owners of the corporation. A shareholder or stockholder can be a person, company, or organization that holds stocks in a given company. They are entitled to vote on certain company matters and to be elected to a seat on the board of directors. One advantage of being a shareholder is that creditors cannot compel shareholders to pay for any of the company's financial obligations or debt. However, being a shareholder includes responsibilities such as appointing the company's directors, deciding on director compensation, setting limits on directors' power, and monitoring and approving the company's financial statements. Next, there are two types of shareholder, the common shareholder and preferred shareholder. Common shareholder. Common shareholder are any person who owns a company common stocks. They have the right to control how the company is managed, and they have the right to bring charges if management is involved in activities that could potentially harm the organization. Preferred shareholders own a share of the company's preferred stock and have no voting rights or involvement in managing the company. Instead, they receive a fixed amount of annual dividends, a portion before the common shareholders are paid. Though both common shareholders and preferred shareholders see their stock value increase with the positive performance of the company, common shareholders experience higher capital gains and losses. Next, let us tackle the role of management. The practical day-to-day management of a company comprises of a team of several mid-level managers who are responsible for providing leadership to various departments in the company. Corporations are run at the highest level by a group of senior managers referred to as the board of directors. The board of directors is ultimately responsible for providing oversight and strategic direction as well as overall supervision of the organization at its highest managerial level. Such managers may often have different functional roles in a business organization. In conclusion, the shareholders will elect a board of directors for the organization, and the board of directors will help the CEO for strategic direction and overall supervision as its highest managerial level. to achieve the goals of the organization and to protect the stocks of the shareholders.
Our next topic is all about Board of Directors. What is a Board of Directors and what do they do in an organization? Board of Directors is a group of people who are elected to represent shareholders, and these directors are then ultimately responsible for running the company. They are responsible for establishing management policies, protecting shareholders' interests, overseeing the corporation or organization, and decisions about important issues. The board is also tasked with a number of other responsibilities, including setting company goals, creating dividend and stock option policies, hiring and firing chief executive officers or CEOs, and ensuring that the company has the resources it needs to perform well. The structure of a board is generally determine the responsibilities and powers given to a board of directors. Bylaws also determine how many board members there are, how the members are elected, and how frequently the board members meet. Since board of directors are the one who's making the policies, decision, rules, and such, they must know what is corporate governance is. So, corporate governance is a discipline that focuses on how a company conducts its business and the various controls that are implemented to ensure proper procedures and ethical behavior. Though many companies and managers do operate with a fair and honest philosophy, others will try to exploit the temporary benefits of actions that fall outside ethical behavior. Companies do not always adhere to laws. You may have seen or read news stories about false reporting of earnings, failure to reveal financial information, or payments of large bonuses to top executives shortly after a company files for bankruptcy. With those information, a company must know how to improve oversight and governance as it plays a crucial role to today's corporate environment for them to avoid risk and reduce the potential of financial loss, waste, and corruption. As mentioned, it can avoid potential financial loss of the business. It's actually have a committee that is in charge for handling finances of the business, and this is a strong independent committee that has an important role of the corporate governance, which is the audit committee. The audit committees are the one who reports regularly to the BOD or Board of Directors and assist the board by assuming responsibilities for critical corporate financial matters such as reviewing audit plans and findings, approving external public accountants, and coordinating the efforts of both internal and external financial reviews and audits. The audit committee performs an internal audit to review the organization's corporate governance process and to communicate any recommendations for changes. Therefore, it is a critical part of a company's corporate governance efforts and greatly affected by the legal, institutional, financial, cultural, and political circumstances that impact the company. Additionally, there are two importance that a board of directors must adhere to so that they are still aligned with their goals, which are independence and diversity. First, the independence in board of directors. Independent board of directors is composed of individuals who have no material interest in the company other than their directorship. They maintain their independence by only accepting compensation from the company for their service. Second, diversity. Diversity among board of members is an increasingly important corporate necessity that can promote accountability and compliance at the highest level. Increasingly over recent years, corporate management has begun to appreciate the value of diversity in board of directors. Two are important for board of directors as it helps them to assure ownership that the company is being run legally, ethically, and in the best interest of shareholders. Also, it improves cybersecurity, advancing customer service, identifying and reducing risk, improving community relations, and positioning strategically within an industry. By taking the appropriate steps to improve corporate oversight and governance, the business can have a positive effects of achieving their goals, including long-term financial viability, opportunity, raise of capital, build trust with investors, and return.
Next, let's discuss agency problems and issues. Agency problems occur when managers prioritize their personal goals over the interests of shareholders, leading to conflicts of interest in organizations. This issue is perceived across various types of entities, including corporation, non-profit, and government agencies. Resolving agency problems requires organizations to take proactive measurements to align the incentives of managers with those of shareholders, ultimately safeguarding company profits and shareholder trust. There are three primary types of agency problems that I will discuss to you in this topic. The first is stockholders between management. Segregating ownership from management can be advantageous for an organization. Large corporations typically have a substantial number of stockholders forming their ownership. It is essential for an organization to separate the management of a company from this ownership in order to avoid an agency problem. This next slide will discuss to you investors versus creditors. The potential agency problem between investors and creditors is if they decide to engage in risky investment and projects in order to drive organizational profitability. This increased risk level could threaten the company's ability to serve or repay their debits, leading to possible default. The next is stockholders between other stakeholders. One of the agency problems between stockholders and other stakeholders is if stockholders are able to put their interests ahead of those of other stakeholders in a corporate environment. The last slide of this topic will discuss impact of ESG rating. ESG ratings were originally developed to assist in determining the general risk of ESG factors for any public company. ESG means environmental factors, social factors, governance is all under corporate evaluation. Next, let's discuss interacting with investors, intermediaries, and other market participants. Investor relation, or IR, involves elements of communication, marketing, and finance. Is designed to control the flow of information from the management of a public corporation to its investors and stakeholders. Quarterly earnings conference call. Companies, depending on their size and operational complexities, typically release earnings, press release, and hold conference calls with investors within a 45-day period. While not legally mandated, these communications are considered best practice by investor relation experts as they provide additional context and commentary on the reported financial results.
To summarize it all, we identified the different types of business organization, which are the sole proprietorship, partnership, corporation, and limited liability corporation. We also identified what stakeholder is and its role and position within the organization. The two types of shareholders, which are common shareholders and preferred shareholders. We're able to tackle the difference between shareholders and stakeholders. On top of that, we're able to define as well what board of director is and its role to the organization, as well as its connection to corporate governance and its importance of improving corporate oversight and governance to the board of directors. The two importance that the board of directors must adhere to, which are independence and diversity. Additionally, we know more the agency issues within the organization, which are stockholders versus management, investors versus creditors, stockholders versus other stakeholders, and also the steps on how to resolve these agency problems. Next, we know more the importance of interacting with investors, those quarterly earning conference calls, investments, meetings, and conferences, as well as the purposes of corporate press releases. Lastly, we know more the importance of companies in domestic and global markets. That includes the differences among domestic, international, and global organizations, difference in financial reporting, GAAP versus IFRS. GAAP stands for Generally Accepted Accounting Principles, and IFRS stands for International Financial Reporting Standards. And lastly, SEC reporting and EDGAR. SEC reporting stands for Securities and Exchange Commission reporting, and EDGAR stands for Electronic Data Gathering Analysis and Retrieval Systems. That will be all for this video, and thank you for watching. We hope you find our presentation informative, useful, and insightful. Have a good day, everyone.